Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today we're talking about an often requested topic, which is coming out later in life. A few caveats: I am not a huge fan of the phrase later in life because it makes it sound like it's late. Everyone's experience of introducing people to who they are is different. Some people prefer the phrase coming out. Some people prefer letting in. Both of those phrases are great. Coming out evokes this idea of stepping out into the light and not having to hide anymore. And allowing in brings up images of trust and acceptance and love and allowing someone to know you fully. Both of those are great. You phrase it how you want to. I usually default to coming out because that's what it was always called when I was younger, and that's sort of how I see it. And I don't know if it's just Pride Month or what it is, but there's a lot of interest right now in people understanding what makes us wait till after our teens and 20s to declare who we are to the world. There's a couple of reasons. My first response to this is always, you do it when you're ready. There is some science to ready, and that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit today. There are 3 things that need to exist before you can safely allow the world, or at the very least the close people to you, to know who you are. The first one is safety. It has to be safe. You have to have, on some level, some inkling that someone is going to still accept you. I work with teenagers and young adults. I also work with adults, and also I'm a queer person. It really doesn't matter how accepting your parents or your spouse or your best friend is. It's still scary to tell somebody something that historically would have gotten you unalived. And we're all aware of that. We're also all aware of 1 or 2 or 7 stories of people who have had significant losses of relationships in their lives simply because they told someone who they were and they couldn't accept it. So that fear exists as a self-preservation, and it's okay. But you are not going to willingly expose who you are to people or invite people into your truth without some inkling that someone is safe. Typically now, most teens and young adults come out to their friends before they come out to their family for a number of different reasons. Number 1, because they assume that most of their friends are going to accept them better than their family does. And number 2, because when you come out to your family, it's super real, and sometimes they're not ready for that, like,
now I have to face it myself too.
Later in life, there's a lot of other reasons why we don't share who we are right away, or even sometimes no. And the first one, again, safety. You have to be safe. You have to have a safe person. You need to be in a safe place. They need to be economically safe. For a lot of people, they need to be able to physically support themselves financially and emotionally, have their own living space before they're safe enough to be able to tell people. Because if those people are then gone and they're the people who were helping to support them or they were sharing bills with before, that's not an option anymore if they leave. That's right. This decision comes back for most people to who is going to be gone from my life because of who I am. If you do not understand the way this feeds into internalized homophobia, I need you to take a minute and just think about that statement. The safety issue is really all in preparation for potentially losing those relationships and those supports in your life. You are prepping for someone to potentially refuse to see your humanity and your worth. How would that not then become internalized? And how would that then not make you question your worth? Maybe I'm a little fired up because somebody recently made a comment on the channel saying that internalized homophobia wasn't a thing. Kind of is. The second thing that needs to be present for someone to come out is a want for change. There needs to be in them a desire for things to be different, a desire for people to know them more deeply, a desire to be able to have authenticity in relationships, a desire to pursue something maybe on a personal level that you then have to clue other people around you in on if you're going to pursue a relationship or a future in a way that doesn't match how they know you. That want for change, that want for something different sometimes doesn't happen until much later in life. This happens especially for women, and this happens because as women, we are raised to be people pleasers, to be need meters. We meet the needs of people around us, and that's our primary function. If your focus is in meeting the needs of people around you, their need for you to be who they think you are, your need to be part of heteronormativity and peace and a little bit of a life that less people question, the social norms, if you will, that we follow, those needs are often what we default to. And it's not until later when those needs ring hollow and when those things that we thought would fulfill us and stop us from feeling so out of place or just not one of everyone or just away from everything we care about, that wall and distance that we've been feeling, we think will disappear when we have those things. Then you get those things and you get that job, or you keep that job, or you keep that relationship, or you have those kids, and you realize that it's still there, that need for self-actualization is still there, and you want that to change. So you change it. And a lot of times, because we don't self-actualize until much later into our late 20s and 30s, we aren't able to know that need is still there when we have all the things that everybody always said would make us happy, and quiet that voice. And the last one is opportunity. You need an opportunity. For people who are in marriages, let's say, or have children, or in jobs that they are not able to be 100% themselves in. If they have families that are not going to affirm their identities, or they are surrounded by people who aren't going to use their pronouns. These are the things that keep people hidden for longer. And yeah, the world is different now, and the world is so much better than it has been, but there's so much work to do to give people the opportunity and the space to experience different identities, different sexualities, different ways of expressing themselves in order for people to find the one that fits for them. When people aren't given the opportunity to learn that there are other ways of being, they're not given the opportunity to learn there are other people out there who are doing life differently, and it's okay. When people aren't given those opportunities, they're not going to be their truest selves. Because for a lot of them, they had no idea there was another self in there. For some people, it's just the normalization of being part of the LGBTQIA plus community. For some, they just need to see things like a pride celebration or a queer family, or meet a trans person, meet someone who identifies as non-binary and understand that's even an option for them. For a lot of people, the opportunity comes once they know what else is out there. Part of that is what I'm trying to do with this channel. Give you the opportunity to face who you are and decide what you want to do with it, and be empowered to do what you want with your life. So there you have it. 3 things that have to exist for people to be able to feel like they're ready to tell people who they really are. I would challenge you to take a minute and see how those things were present in your story and how you discovered who you are. When were those things most present? And is that when you got to tell people who you were? Or is that when you just started to learn it? It happens differently for all of us, but for all of us, our stories are significant. We're all still living our stories, whether you've been out for 20 years or still trying to figure out what it means to be whoever you are. Your story is significant. Where you're at in your story is not the beginning or the end. We are all in the midst of our stories. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and share your story below. If you're somebody who came out later in life, how did that work for you? How do you see these 3 things impacting who you are now and how you actualized who you are? Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you all next time. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.